What's going on, guys? It's DigiWatch coming to you with another video. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a discussion about BT11 right before Nationals take place. Now, February is a little bit a ways, and we do have a little bit of time, so definitely this is not meant to say anything about our current meta or what the meta is going to be. It's just more speculation, looking at the JP meta, looking at the deck builds, kind of explaining what decks may fade out and what decks may start to, I guess, become tier 1. It's just as speculation. Of course, everything here, take a grain of salt with it. Everything here is just more like my opinion, and kind of since they have like a best of one format at the very least for like their more regional or more official events. There is a bit of a difference between them and us, as well as also them having started at 14. We don't have it already. So with that said, please like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and let's get into it. We're going to try to make this a pretty quick video. I mean, there's a bunch we're going to talk about, but we're going to try to go over a couple of the big decks that are from every color and explain why some decks are going to be kind of fading out, or why there's not as much representation in those decks. So with that said, starting things off, I also want to, before we even start things off, I want to make a little like footnote here that these lists are actually ban lists from December 1st. So if you notice, all the dates listed here are of November, October. They're before December 1st, which means that if you see some cards, like maybe you see Cross 4, X4, that is at 4, it means that they just didn't apply it yet. So again, like that's what I mean, like when I say like it is more like a speculation type of video. So starting things off, we're gonna start with black, and I'm gonna talk about 3 main decks because I do think that the black color is going to basically take over a lot of the meta. Now, if you look over on the side here, I don't know if you've ever been there. This is Digimon Card Meta, or sorry, DigimonMeta.com. It's a good place to take a look at results, tournament results, and deck builds from sets we don't have. And this is based on the Japanese, set or Japanese format at the moment. So we can see over here, the little pictures here kind of depict what the deck is, and we have mainly 2 big ones. I'm going to talk about 3 in general, but I'll talk about the main 2 is going to be the Machinedramon and the Black Greymon Black version of the deck that we are going to get in BT11. Additionally, I am going to quickly just touch on the Sukamon deck because I do think that's an interesting deck, and even though it has only 1 top, I do think that it is just worth just taking a quick look at. So starting things off, we're going to talk about the Machine Chaosmon decks. Now, as for you can see, for the rookies and champions and ultimates, that's pretty much the same, except with the inclusion of this one new card. Sorry, some of these cards will have a little bit of time to load, but this is the Metal Tyrannomon we do get in BT11. It has some pretty good effects, and its inherited is pretty awesome. All turns, once returned, when this Digimon deletes a Digimon in battle, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. So one thing that Machinedramon does really well in BT11 is redirect attacks to with the use of Analog Man. And it's going to actually be a very quick deck. With the support we currently have, as well as some of the new support we're going to get, I think this deck has the potential to be a tier 1 deck. And the reason why I say that also is because these players, the Machinedramon players, have a lot of variation of how they can build. So one thing you may notice about the old Machinedramon is that all turns, this Digimon's DP can't be reduced, and if it would be deleted, you can trash 2 cards from the top of or 2 level 5s from the Digivolution cards instead. So if you went to this Machinedramon and you're facing like a red deck or a black deck or something that does a lot of that, or a yellow deck, you can keep this as your top end and not have to worry about digivolving based on the matchup. And then of course you have the Chaosdramon as well, which we already have from EX3, that basically alternates if it would be deleted or returned to hand or deck by trashing 2 cards at the same level, or sorry, 2 level 5s, you can prevent it from leaving play. So what's cool about this is that, let's say you're playing like a Werkurumon deck, or you're placing against a blue deck that does a lot of bounce. Well, this card can be your top end, rather than your Machinedramon from EX1. And I think that's a really interesting point to make, is that you can go into this card based on the matchup. And if blue is one of those bounce the hand kind of decks, you just leave this on top. But if you're facing like a security control player, you may want to go into Machine Dramon. Additionally, we do have this new Machine Dramon that if you have an analog mana in play and this gets deleted by an effect, you can play one Machine Dramon from your hand, which is really nuts because basically it means that this card gets deleted. And then you can shuffle back the analog man, which I'll talk about in a quick second, and then you can play this one for free, and then his play effect will be put 5 red or black level 5s from your trash or your hand with different numbers into them, with card numbers into them, and then you're going to gain 5 memory. So again, like, it's a very powerful effect. Now additionally, your defense is so powerful in this because not only does your opponent have to deal with not being able to get rid of them in a use of like an option card or something like that, but also analog man here, opponent's turn, if you're once per turn, when your opponent, or well, not once per turn, but when your opponent attacks, you can spend this tamer and switch it to a level 6 Digimon with Machinist traits, which basically is going to be your 3 big boys over here. So you have a very strong defense, and if your opponent does try to attack, your Metal Tyrannomon may trigger, trash the top card of their security, and really very much weaken their board. So it takes a lot to get rid of this deck, and the amount of aggression this can place out, a lot of like control it does on the field, is just very, very powerful, and I do think that this is going to be a very powerful deck. Now, in addition to this may affect some of the other cards we currently have in the meta, and what we are currently seeing now is a big part of our current meta is security control and yellow hybrid. Well, if you're able to essentially not DP reduce these cards, then those decks essentially start to fade out. And like if you're playing a security control deck, of course they're going to constantly keep recovering sources, but their flame hell sites basically don't kill anything anymore, and the only real removal they have is the chaos degrade. So it's not that security control will die, but it'll see less representation maybe because one of the this deck will have that protection from Machine Dramon. So that is our black deck. Now going into our second black deck, we're going to talk about Black Greymon Black version. Now the black version is, I think, just as scary as the other red version, which we have later in this video. But the black version here has the ability to basically not even attack and be able to trash cards from your opponent's security based on its own effects. And again, one of the cards that I will mention here is this one over here, which is the Metal Greymon that has inherited once per turn. When a Digimon becomes unsuspended, if this Digimon's name contains Greymon or Omnimon, trash the top card of your opponent's security. So being able to have that avoidance of, and I'm sorry, the actual Digivolving effect is until the end of your opponent's turn, your opponent's effects can't reduce this DP and can't de-digivolve it. So it protects it against like Chaos Dramon, I guess, and again, like against security control or yellow hybrid, any yellow cards that DP reduce, really kind of don't have an effect on here. An additional thing is that Yuya here has the ability of when you digivolve into the same level Digimon for the next turn, that Digimon isn't affecting your opponent's option cards until the end of your opponent's turn. So Yuya kind of gives you that additional protection of not being able to get chaos degraded or wyverns or anything like that if your opponent has that in hand. So I do think this is a very powerful deck in general. And then again, the top end here is a little different from what you see in the red version. They're not playing the stuff that is what you usually see, but you have the older BT5 Black Greymon that has security +1. So you do 2 checks and it has reboot, which all you need is this Metal Greymon underneath it to digivolve on top of, do the security checks, and then end of turn will reboot. Then because it reboots on your opponent's turn, you trash the top card based on where is it? This one, Metal Greymon X Antibody. And then of course you have the Black Greymon that allows you to redirect the attack to this card. And then once per turn, when a Digimon becomes unsuspended, if this Digimon has Black Greymon X Antibody, you may delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So it does kind of have that removal aspect as well, just like Machine Dramon. So in general, what I can say about black is that because black has this protection and a lot of people are kind of going toward this route, those yellow decks don't see as much representation, and you have to find other ways of dealing with them. I mean, you could technically go into stuff like Venusmon and be able to -1 security and turn off effects, but some of these other effects are not when attacking or when digivolving. For example, this one over here is an opponent's turn once per turn effect, which is not related to an attacking or anything like that, and it really doesn't have any security +1s on it. I don't think so. Don't think it does, other than like the black program one here, which is an interesting tech. I do kind of like. I want to test out the black version of this deck because it does have a lot of potential. Now, the last black deck before we move on is going to be Sukamon. Now, I won't talk about this too much because it only has one top. As far as the JP is concerned, but it does have an interesting mechanic that people shouldn't underestimate, in my opinion, and that is the King Sukamon effect. Now, I'm going to talk about two main cards here, and you can kind of figure the rest of the cards give support to this, but Sukamon here has the effect, and it's more the inherited than anything else, of when this Digimon would be deleted. By deleting another Digimon on the field with Sukamon in its name from the field, delete that, prevent that deletion. So that is a very important little piece to figure out. Now, the other thing here is Sukamon, King Sukamon, and its effect is on play when digivolving. If your opponent has 16 or more cards in their trash, or if you have 3 or more cards of Sukamon in your trash, one of your opponent's Digimon becomes a Sukamon, white, DP 3000 until the end of the turn. And then one for every other Digimon with Sukamon in its name in play gains +1 security. Now, this is important because when you attack into your opponent's security, because obviously you see 6,000 DP is not a lot of DP. When you're doing the checks with this Digimon, it's a check including the Sukamon that your opponent has in play as well. And if this were to be deleted, let's say you hit into something that has 10,000 DP, you can just kill your opponent's Digimon. And I don't know if you're actually even able to save it using other effects if it has those active effects. Because you changed the name of the card, you've changed the color of the card, so I don't know if that's going to be in play right now. But it is a little bit of an interesting mechanic in that it kind of it controls the board by saying, okay, well, you digivolved into this, and you had a big boss monster here, but my King Sukamon is just going to turn your guy into a Sukamon and have that protection and everything like that. The other cards that kind of give it additional protection, the Metal Edamon, the new one we have, is the level 6, which basically reveals the top 4 cards, and you can play Sukamons, Edamons, or Chumons from your deck equal to cost of 7. So that is really interesting. And then, of course, you just have these other ones here, which I think a lot of these are composite or mutant. I'm not sure why she's here. Oh, that's right. You could reduce the cost by 1 from digivolving onto a dual color. That's why. But yeah, that is basically the black engine in a nutshell. Let's keep going because I know we have a lot to go over. And the next deck we're going to talk about is, actually, we're going to go back here for a quick second. So we saw, like I said, the black decks. There are the Galacticmon, I think, comes out, and I'm not going to cover that because it does have a few wins, but I don't know if it's going to be absolutely competitive. So we're going to skip to blue for a bit. And I'm going to go over some of the decks very quickly that we already know we have, and then 1 or 2 that are relatively new. So the first thing I want to talk about, let's get to that over here, is the All Force decks. And we have a couple of new ones that we might be using. And I do like a couple of these builds. I've been considering talking through it and like play testing a couple of these, and it is interesting. So this is the Leomon variant of All Force, and the reason why it's the Leomon variant is because Jerry is a blue tamer, and Jerry can play a Leomon for free from your hand, which gets you an additional body on field. And there are ways of kind of protecting yourself and not dying to certain decks in this format, in that since you get to play multiple tamers from your hand for free, basically using the All Force Vidramon effects and stuff like that, then you can play Leomon. Leomon is a blocker. Leomon has a gain 2 memory on deletion, draw 1, so it can get you more cards, gain you more memory. Say we were facing a deck like the Machine Dramon deck that feels like it's unstoppable, and if they try to attack your security, you can block, and you can gain memory back, especially if they do something like they have Machine Dramons out, and they're able to like play out other Machine Dramons. won't get digivolved if they delete it by an effect. It gains 2 memory, so it makes it a little bit less. You get less affected if you lose to that. You also have the ability to block against stuff like cross hearts, which is going to be seeing a big representation in my opinion when we get to it. And then, of course, the new mechanic here of being able to play Rena or playing one Blue Tamer from your hand without paying the memory cost. And then when you play Blue Tamer, unsuspend this Digimon is not a once per turn. And once per turn, you could unsuspend. You can send a level 3 back to your owner's hand, and then you increase level for every Blue Tamer on the field. And then additionally, like you have the new Rena here that basically on play when your Digimon gets block or invade, and then when one of your Digimon with Vegemon and its name becomes suspended, by suspending its tamer, activate one of the digivolving effects. So you kind of just recycle that, and if you have more arenas in hand, you can kind of attack multiple times. And again, you can keep bouncing. Well, you can bounce at least once per turn. With all fours. So there is a lot to consider when playing the Leomon version of this deck. Now, another deck to consider is a Bond of Friendship version of this deck, which is also very scary. You do play, like, basically the Gawamons that you gain memory on, or sorry, not gain multiple attacks on. You also play some of the Leomon engine, which I kind of like that in this deck, really. I do like the Leomons. Maybe not the other, maybe not the old Leomon, but the new Leomon is an interesting addition. I'm not sure about the Mirage Galgamon either, but basically the core mechanic here is your level 3s rather than the Vmons are the Gawamons that search you tamers that let you warp digivolve. The fact that you can play tamers for free from your hand means you can play Matt for free, you can play Jerry for free based on the decks that you're going to be the situations you're going to be in. So this is another version of the deck. And then lastly, those are the main two. There is a pure version, but I do think that these other ones might see more play than this one. Now, going over this one, this is a Nexomon deck, and the only real difference in this deck is that you get the new Dracomon here. This is the new Dracomon when you play another Digimon with Drummon in its name or Blue Flare in its traits, you draw 1. It's a once per turn effect, and then you can gain a memory if you play another Drummon or Blue Flare in its traits, gain 1 memory. So you'll see this in definitely mixed decks now, and I do like it. I think that it sort of replaces this Dracomon over here, which is the older version, and I just do think that this one is much, much better. You also have everything here basically being the same. You do have a little bit of a variation of the level 4s. This one's an interesting option I was taking a look at. This one, you can digivolve, trash 1 card from one of your opponent's Digimon. That's any card. It's not the lowest or the highest card in the stack. It's any card you choose. So it can counter some of those decks. Everything else is pretty standard of what you normally would see in one of these decks. So I'm not going to go too far into that. Now, going into another deck, Metal X, you can see I'm not going to spend more than like 30 seconds on this deck. Everything is pretty much the same. X Antibody at 3, Cool Boy at 3, the Omnimon package, the Metal Garurumon. Basically, nothing is touched on here. So, honestly, you can just keep the same deck you've been playing for 3 formats unless they hit this right before Nationals. Which they may. February of this year was when they put the ice wall restriction in, so you could see that again in the future. Blue Flare. What can I say about Blue Flare real quick? Well, I guess the biggest thing here is the inclusion of Yuya to this deck. It's a really interesting concept I was seeing people play, and Yuya here has the effect of when you digivolve onto the same Digimon, you can make it unaffected by your opponent's option cards. Additionally, it's a memory tamer, and additionally, it is when one of your Digimon digivolves with Greymon in its name by suspending a tamer, it gets 2,000 DP. Well, since a lot of this here can digivolve into Greymon type cards, it does make sense to throw this in. It's a 2 of, I can see that, and it is really just one of the only cards you may have to hard play. But it does give you that protection from your opponent being able to remove it by options. And I do like it. It only has 1 or 2 examples of it in the overall on the blue side of things. So I don't think that we're going to have too much variation on there. All right. So that said, let's go into the next color, which is green, and you're not gonna be super surprised by green, as you can see here. So with green, there are mainly two decks. There is a third deck, but I'm not going to include it because it only has one top. Um, but it is, as you can see here, mainly Grandis is the big boy here, and then the other one is Bloomlord. There's a few Bloomlords in here, but if we go back over here, we can see a deck list very quickly here because I'm not going to spend too much time on this one either. But nothing has changed. There is maybe one or two differences, which I think is not in this variation of the deck, but it's like there's a start of your turn, draw an extra card. There's a start of your turn, gain a memory card, but this basically is a BT9 deck that is just in the new one here. That's all it is. No, there's no change. Um, Going into our other version of the deck, I mean, sorry, not other version, other green deck is Bloomlord, and this is the cards I was talking about. Now, nothing really again has changed in this deck. Sorry, not this one. This one here, Palmon. This is our BT11 Palmon. Start your turn, draw a card. So you basically draw two at the start of your turn, and then this one over here is start your turn, gain a memory. Nothing else really changes here. Yeah, there's nothing, no real difference here. But yeah, those cards still see a lot of play in BT 11, and even get stronger in BT 12 with its level 7 that it's going to get. So let's go into the last couple of colors here real quickly. So first one, well, actually, let's go back here and just talk about what purple looks like. So purple is going to get a lot of support in the form of the angels and demons. You have the new angel woman, new lady devis, and then the angelmon and devimons in here. And so we do have that in the Mastermon deck, but we also have Minervamon. And Minervamon, or Mervamon, I should say, is a very interesting card. It's very good. And I do want to show you a couple of the deck lists there, and then we'll go into our last color and finish up the video. So starting things off, we are going to go over our Merva loop here. So you can see here, pretty much everything is about the same. There are a few differences, which I'll go over in a sec. So basically the big thing of this deck, the thing that changes the most, is that you're focused on a retaliation type of type cards, and that involves the Dark Rhizomon over here. I'm sorry. Here we go. Delete one, draw one, trash one, and it does kill one of your opponent's Digimon. If you block it, then you have another one here, which is a draw two, and trash two from your hand. So basically the Lady Devimon effect, and then again it has a retaliation. And then when you play Digimon by an effect, gain a memory. That is the effect of the blue one here. You have Ignitmon, which actually is a really powerful card in my opinion. Basically has the ability of when attacking by deleting one of your other Digimon, delete one of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon with the level less than or equal to the deleted Digimon. This is a very powerful card and very easy to bring out. And what's great is about the combos where you do Minervamon, and Mervamon. Sorry, their names are so similar. But yeah, so what you have here is a level 6. So you do have another level 6 here. And then if you would play this card, you can also play cards from your trash as the Digivolution cards for this. And that is one Digimon card with cross hearts in its traits. Now the cross hearts it has in traits are just a few, which I don't think this is cross hearts. I'm not sure. Let me take here. No, this is Olympus 12. Yeah, so it's not this one. It is, I think it's this one over here. Yeah, so you have Ignitmon, which is basically the one that is going to be the cross hearts choice. Or I guess you could even put a copy, I think a copy of itself underneath, but I don't think there's anything else in this deck that necessarily is a cross hearts card. But you can do that, but you can also mainly digivolve on top, which is most people are going to digivolve this on top, and then you can, when digivolving, you can play one level 4 or lower purple card or one with cross hearts in its traits without paying the memory cost. If digicrossing, you can add one to the number of cards you can play with this effect, meaning that you can actually bring 2 back from this effect. And then all of your Digimon with retaliation or with cross hearts in its traits gain rush and blocker. So that's why you are throwing more cards that have retaliation in it back into the field. The other Devimon, I think that this was, nope, not this one here. There was another card that had retaliation, I think. Mistaken. I'm sorry, I don't know where it is. But basically, yeah, this is going to be the loop strategy, but a little bit stronger and a little bit faster because now you get even more rush. you can see that there's not as many of the Were Garurumon, I mean, no, Were Cerberusmon and Cerberusmon Werewolf mode in here. That could always change. I mean, people can switch around ratios and throw those in if they really wanted to, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary because you see that engine's not really being run anymore. The Revive from the Darkness, which is interesting. So there could be other decks that kind of run the old version of Minervamon, but this is definitely one I'm going to experiment with because I did make this deck. I played it for like a few weeks, and then it kind of died out, especially with Calling going to 1. And yeah, that was the end of the deck for now. But I'm definitely going to try it out with a Mervamon. Now, the other purple deck we do have is Mastamon, and Mastamon gets some really good support here. You have Angemon and you have Devimon, and what these cards do, it's again kind of focusing on the rush retaliation part of things. But your Angemon, if it dies, then you can bring back a purple. If you have a purple Digimon or in play, or you have one a purple Tamer in play, you can play out a Devimon from your trash, and your Devimon in trash has the effect of retaliation and rush. So it does swing at your opponent. Your opponent has to try to block it. If they don't, then they take the damage. If not, then they may not. Of course, you're playing the Lady Devimons and the Angel Womans, the new ones here, as well as the new Tamer Mirai. I'm sorry if I'm killing that name. But this is basically the gain 1 memory, start your turn. So you're always going to start with 4 if you have a memory tamer as well. When your Digimon digivolves into an Angel Woman or a Lady Devimon, if you have 1 or less in play, you can play 1 Angel Woman or Lady Devimon from your hand with a different name from the Digimon for free without paying a memory cost. So it's very easy to basically say, hey, I'm going to go into my Gatomon, Digivolve into Lady Devimon. Okay, now I played Lady Devimon. I can play my Angel Woman from my hand for free and go into my Mastamon much faster. And this is definitely seeing, I think, some more support down the line. And we do know we're gonna get some cool support, not necessarily reprints and stuff like that. With the playmat also down the line, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I do really like this. I have always been a fan of the Angemon line. And I'm kind of excited to play this version of the deck. So with that said, that is a really powerful deck. But as I mentioned before, you can notice here they're not playing Flame Hellsides anymore. They're playing Chaos Degrades, probably because the matchups against Black are so bad for this deck. Because either they can't be deleted or they can't get off the field. So being able to just Chaos Degrade them off the field is just very powerful. So yeah, that is the purple deck. Now I think we're up to red. Yeah, so we're going to talk about real quickly the reds, and then I think that will basically be it. I think I have 1 or 2 more decks, and then we're good. So this is the red version of the deck. This really isn't changed too much from what we already know. Just a little bit more aggression. You're still playing black eggs. You're playing red eggs. I don't think they have it here, but they have nothing's really changed from what we have. We have Greymon here at 2, which is a 2000 booster as an inherited. You have the new Greymon that basically says when this Digimon will digivolve into a Greymon in its name, reduce the cost by 1 for each color that Digimon has. So you're playing the black and red ones that are 4 cost, and you definitely want to play them. Then you have the dual color Black War Greymon and Gaiamon and Black War Greymon. It's just a little bit more aggression. And being able to do more and more checks. I'm not 100% certain on the deck. Honestly, I'm still deciding whether or not one is versus the other is better. But you can definitely say that Black Greymon, regardless, will have very good representation when we get to it, as long as nothing else gets hit. And then, of course, the Hades Force card is crazy. Choose any number of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers whose total play cost adds up to the play cost of one of your Digimon with Greymon in its name. In play or less, and delete them. So you can basically pick like a card that has a 12 cost like Black or Greymon, and you can get rid of stuff that equals out to 12. And then one of your Greymon can attack, and then it's just a really powerful option card. I actually can't wait for this card to come out in English. The other deck I don't think was using it, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just see if I can find it. Oh, they were. They threw one a copy in. But yeah, it really is going to depend on some things here. But yeah, I think that because again, there's a red version, a black version. I think just yellow doesn't have as much representation. We will go over one yellow deck. I guess you can call it one yellow. But yeah, so we're gonna go over the last red deck. Now this is considered quote unquote red, just because I think the top end is so red focused, and it is the Cross Hearts deck, and um, Cross Hearts is gonna get some really good support, and it basically straight up turns into a Rookie Rush deck. Now, as you can see here, Shoutmon X4 is a is at 4 right now in this deck because it was before the ban list. So keep in consideration this should be at 1, and you could probably say King modes can probably make up the other um, cards in this. You have the X3s, which also will be like rookies that be able to swing into your opponent's security. Mervamon can digivolve basically on top of a black or a purple, but they don't have any level 5s, I don't think. So this one, there is another way of playing this, and that is by the trash or just hard playing it for 8. And again, because if you do Digicross with it using a Cross Hearts in its traits, you can bring 2 cards back. So if you have enough to keep it your turn, then you can basically hard slam this for 8, gain back memory probably from Jeremy or something like that, or the blinding rays give you additional memory, gravity crush give you additional memory, being able to keep it your turn, and then you can just basically rush your opponent down for the win. There are other decks, of course, like that too, but this is mainly one of the big ones. And again, that's why like Machine Dramon and Black or Greymon are becoming very, very much part of the meta, because this deck is just very, very strong, being able to attack multiple times. And for the fact that they can avoid being bounced or avoid being deleted is also very, very powerful. Now, the last deck we're going to talk about is everyone's favorite, is Yellow Purple Set Control. There was only one deck out of the entire listings of currently right now, at least the ones I found. I'm sure there are more if I look a little harder. I'm not going to click on every single deck, but this is what we normally would consider to be set control type of deck. So this one is a little different from what we currently see. We do run the Magna Anchamons and this, the Junomons, to loop the options back, or your Avenged Kidmons. You play the Gallantmon Crimson mode because once you fill up the trash, you're able to trash their security and just swing for game. You do have Takato that gives it the ability to blitz. The same term it comes out, you have Death X being able to control the board. You have Mimi's and Kari's being tax control. Holy Waves, of course, to recover, reinforcing, stuff like that. The only big things here you can see is the Flame, Chaos, and Grandest Soul. Of course, Grandest Soul is a green option, and I don't really see anything green in here. So I think this is just a card that basically, if it gets hit in security, it triggers. If not, it does whatever. But I don't really think there, unless there's, I don't think there's a discard outlet here. Is there? I'm not certain. No, there's no discard outlet. So I think honestly, this is just a dead card in hand potentially. If if that's what people are playing. But keep in mind, like there is, they want these decks, these set control decks are probably gonna want to mix up their options a little bit, so that if you're facing like a Machine Dramon deck, that you're not relying on the Wyvern's Breath, because Wyvern's Breath will do nothing. It'll not DP reduce anything. Same thing with Flame Hell Scythe, will just basically be able to play out a Magna for free, and that would essentially be it. Chaos the Great, of course, will be the stronger card, so maybe we may have to modify Flame Hell Scythe and Grand Soul for other decks. I know that Metal Gurumon is going to be kind of power crept by this as well. Avenged Kidmon being able to go into, like I said, the Gallantmon Crimson mode, being able to blitz and just be able to trash cards from your opponent's security is just going to be very, very powerful. This is trash one card from the top of your opponent's security stack, increase the number for every 10 cards in their stack. So late game, when you have a lot of your option cards in your trash, and you can get Avenged Kid for pretty much almost close to free. You have Takato out, you did evolve into Gallantmon the next turn over, and you basically swing, being able to trash the rest of their security and swing for game. So that is essentially the deck in a nutshell. I find this deck to be, security control is always going to be here, and as much as I hate to admit it, it is sometimes a check to the most powerful decks. Uh, but if too many people play it, it ends up being just hogwash. So, with that said, that is pretty much our look at it. Now, I want to know in the comments below, is there a deck that you're excited for yourself? Are you going to be playing the same deck you've been playing for the last couple of months, or are you going to be playing something that is fresh out of BT11? Additionally, were there any decks that you found on the site that you were like, oh, I want to play this deck, and I want to have, I want to try it out. The one I will kind of, I guess I'll pick one card deck here just real quick to kind of take a look at just before we finish up, and that will be the Galactamon deck. Um, the Galactamon deck is interesting. I think this is the Galactamon deck. Ragna Galactamon, yeah. So this is the Venmon, and then the Snatchmons and stuff like that. And I don't honestly, I'm part of the reason I'm not really going to be covering this right now in the video is because I really don't know what everything essentially does. I know that you're supposed to have a bunch of them like that, basically line up under each other, and then they have certain effects based on the amount of Venmon you have underneath it. So, for example, when Digivolving, you place up to 2 Venmon in your trash to bomb this card. Then, if this has 4 or more in its Digifusion cards, return 1 Fusionize from your trash to your hand. And then Galactamon is you can place 4 underneath this card. And then, if this Digimon is 8 or more, delete one of your opponent's Digimon. Alternatively, when this Digimon will leave play, you can prevent it from leaving play by returning 4 Venmon from this Digimon source to the bottom of your deck, and then start your main phase, trash the top card of your opponent's security. So it is an interesting deck in general. Just being able to have like this card, I think is going to give it blocker if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So when you return a Venmon from this source or these cards to the bottom of the deck, unsuspend this Digimon, and gains blocker for the end of your turn. Yeah, like it's kind of an interesting deck, and I haven't really tried it out yet, but I'd love to kind of have an idea of maybe if this is going to be a powerhouse deck down the line. Well, let me know what you guys think. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.